10.
The U.S. Navy battleship Iowa, scene today of a killing disaster at sea. One of the three 16-inch gun turrets on the aging relic of World War II blew up during a routine test firing. For many trapped U.S. sailors, there was no escape. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. The steel turret on the Iowa was packed with gunpowder when it blew up. Reporter Ron Allen is standing by tonight at the Pentagon with the latest pictures and what details the Navy will give us about casualties and damage. Ron?
Dan, officials here at the Pentagon are calling it one of the worst accidents in peacetime in U.S. naval history. 47 crewmen confirmed dead, a figure officials say could go higher. These pictures show the wounded Iowa heading back to Puerto Rico. Medical crews are taking care of a still undetermined number of injured. A damage assessment of the ship is underway. The explosion occurred in a gun turret that is the most powerful the Navy has to fire. And today, during a test shot, something went tragically wrong.
Rapid continuous fire, commence fire. Rapid fire.
The battleship USS Iowa was some 300 miles northeast of Puerto Rico when a fiery explosion in the No. 2 gun turret rocked the ship, killing and wounding sailors in the turret and in the decks below. As many as 100 sailors were manning the big guns. The battleship was taking part in what Navy officials say was a routine exercise, along with nearly 30 other ships. The explosion occurred while crewmen were firing the guns in a normal test. The blaze was put out before it reached the main ammunition magazines. An explosion there could have destroyed the whole ship.
Well, the exact cause of the accident, we don't know. We do know that there was an explosion followed by a fire. It took them about an hour and 20 minutes to put the fire out.
The Iowa was able to steam under its own power to a rendezvous with the carrier Coral Sea, 130 miles away, which had medical personnel aboard to offer assistance. Helicopters transported some of the injured. President Bush expressed his concern about the loss of life during a meeting with congressional leaders.
That it is a great tragedy and a matter of terrible sadness.
The Iowa is one of the Navy's oldest ships on active duty, built and first commissioned during World War II. It was modernized in 1984, but the original 16-inch guns remained aboard.
This ship, the Iowa, was started in 1940. That ship is 50 years old. But the gun technology goes back 50 or 100 years beyond that.
The entire gun mechanism extends 5 levels below the ship's main deck, where bags of gunpowder and shells weighing more than a ton are loaded for firing. There was initial speculation that something went wrong before the massive gun was ready to fire. Even a tiny spark could have set off the deadly explosion.
I don't see how anybody could have survived an explosion of that magnitude in a steel chamber, which is really just a gigantic steel tomb.
The Iowa had recently returned to its home port in Norfolk, Virginia, before moving out for exercises in the Western Atlantic. The ship had spent more than a year on duty escorting tankers through the Persian Gulf. Naval officials are forming a board of inquiry to conduct an investigation. Meanwhile, Dan, there are reports that 2 other ships involved in the same exercise, the USS Tripp and the USS Platte, collided some 500 miles east of Jacksonville. One minor injury, but neither ship was reported in danger of sinking. Dan?
Ron Allen to Pentagon. Thanks. Final arguments in the Oliver North trial today. North brought his children into the courtroom for the first time. The jury is expected to begin its deliberations tomorrow. CBS News law correspondent Rita Braver is covering the courthouse.
On the very last day of the case of the USA versus Oliver North, defense attorney Brendan Sullivan told the jury, the man who held lives of others in his hand now puts his life in your hands. For one last time, Sullivan tried to show North as the victim of the Reagan administration's failed Iran-Contra initiative, offered as a sacrificial lamb to the raging Congress. As North's wife and daughters looked on, Sullivan recalled President Reagan's phone call to North, hailing him as a hero on the very day North was fired from the White House. I draw the conclusion that the president was using Ollie North as a political scapegoat, and he threw him overboard. Then, his voice breaking with emotion, Sullivan quoted the Gospel of John. Greater love has no man than he be willing to lay down his life for another. That's Oliver North. That's the kind of man Oliver North is. In a sense, he's been a hostage. I ask that on the evidence, you set him free. But prosecutor John Kecker scoffed at Sullivan's scapegoat explanation. It's no defense, he said. And over again, he asked the jurors to consider, if you had done things under the circumstances that Oliver North did, what do you think would have happened to you? Wouldn't you expect to be convicted? He concluded, for Colonel North, it's a time for judgment. You've heard a lot about courage in this case. There's another kind of courage. The courage to admit you were wrong. The courage to admit guilt. He has not admitted those things, and it's time for you to do it for him. Tomorrow, the judge will instruct the jurors on how they should apply the law in this case. Then, for the first time, a jury will begin deliberating the fate of a major figure in the Iran-Contra affair. Rita Braver, CBS News at the federal courthouse in Washington.
Still to come on the CBS Evening News. Ray Brady on those up and away gasoline prices right at the start of the travel season. And Connie Chung on fast buck operators who turn vacation winners into big losers.
It's all about safety out here. Testing the features we build in to keep drivers out of trouble. High-speed handling, maneuverability, anti-lock braking means a lot out on the road. After all, somebody's family is going to be driving this car, maybe even mine.
GM leads all other auto companies in awards presented by the Society of Automotive Engineers for research in auto safety.
Let me show you a Puerto Rico most people never see. I know a tiny village where the songs of my ancestors fill the air. I know a country inn where the morning coffee is yesterday's harvest. I know special horses that learn their steps from the conquistadors. I know places no one knows.
America, you're eating foods that are low in cholesterol. Or are you? If you like to cook these foods in butter, you have to add cholesterol. Or do you? Try cholesterol-free butter flavor Pam.
Where does it hurt?
Here.
For heartburn and gas, your medical answer is Extra Strength Malox Plus. Its doctor-recommended formula neutralizes more than any leading antacid. Ask your doctor about Extra Strength Malox Plus.
World oil prices went way up today. Industry experts warn that in weeks to come, you, the motorist, will be paying more and more cash for less and less gasoline. CBS News business correspondent Ray Brady reports that the Exxon Corporation oil spill is again getting at least part of the blame.
In the oil pits today, prices soared like a Texas gusher, going so high even veteran traders were surprised.
The price of oil today is up over $1. That's more than 5% in one day.
That's a big increase.
That's a huge increase.
An increase fueled by a chain of disasters. The Alaska oil spill, a huge West Coast refinery fire. Then, last night, an explosion on a North Sea oil platform that could disrupt supplies from there. All that has sent wholesale gasoline prices up 36 cents a gallon in recent months. The fastest rise ever. One that critics say is due not to shortages, but to greed.
The oil companies have seized the opportunity of this spill to drive up gasoline prices to historically high levels in a very fast period. And consumers are being gouged in this process.
And oil traders who try to guess future prices have just one message: consumer beware.
We expect in the next few weeks that we will see the price of gasoline increase 5 to 15 cents at the pump.
They may have to start thinking about conservation again. Better fuel mileage in cars, insulating the homes better again.
Motorists are burning up gasoline earlier than ever this year, even before summer. But with so much demand, analysts say, any further disruptions in oil supplies could send prices soaring even higher. Dan?
Thanks, Ray. At Senate hearings on the Exxon oil spill today, Democratic leader George Mitchell blasted President Bush and, as I quote, slow to comprehend the magnitude of the disaster, end quote. Republican John Chafee likened Exxon cleanup crews to the Keystone Cops. CBS News correspondent Terrence Smith has more on the spill and the fallout.
The Alaskan cleanup effort got help from an unexpected quarter today, a Soviet skimmer capable of extracting oil from beneath the surface of the polluted waters of Prince William Sound. The U.S. has no such equipment. In Washington, Transportation Secretary Samuel Skinner said the administration is cautiously optimistic about Exxon's new plan to deploy some 4,000 people to scrub 300 miles of oil-caked coastline. But he warned that the project has to get underway immediately.
If we don't do that this summer, we will have a disaster that will have permanent scars on the environment for an extended period of time.
Senators investigating the nation's largest oil spill were scathingly critical of the slow response of both the administration and Exxon.
This card, which was a symbol of trust and confidence for millions of Americans who relied on Exxon to do their share, has now become a symbol for something else: complacency, disregard for the environment.
There needs to be somebody in charge of that spill immediately. I believe that the entity that's best suited to be in charge of that spill is the U.S. Coast Guard.
Meanwhile, a new CBS New York Times poll shows that in the wake of the spill, a majority of those questioned opposed drilling for oil in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. And a striking 74% agree that the environment is so important that it must be protected regardless of cost. Exxon repeated its willingness to bear that cost today, but all the money may not have to come out of the company coffers. Exxon President William Stevens said the company carries insurance that will cover up to $400 million in cleanup expenses. Terrence Smith, CBS News, Washington.
Susan, can we talk?
Sure, Dad.
You notice anything different about Mom?
She's acting pretty wild for her age.
Well, I don't just mean the roller skates.
And the motor scooter. She even borrowed my new dress. Come on, Dad, what is it?
A balanced diet with the right vitamin nutrition helps people get more out of life. Some are finding Kellogg's Product 19. 100% of 12 vitamins and minerals. Feel good about yourself.
Not the, rubber dress.
Feel like 19 again.
It's Color Tile's first ever kitchen and bath sale. Come now and save up to 54%. This contemporary ceramic floor tile, just 59 cents. The prettiest ceramic wall tiles from just 99 cents. Designer vinyl tile from just 49 cents. Every in-stock sundial Solarian sheet vinyl from just $7.99. Plus every beautiful in-stock wall covering now 50% off. Up to 54% savings at our first ever kitchen and bath sale. Only at Color Tile. Hurry, sale ends Sunday.
With low back pain, every step shoots pain. Up here. Know what helps?
Clinically proven Back Guard, a shoe insert. Watch how it absorbs foot shock to relieve low back pain.
Amazing. Something down here can help up here.
Back Guard from Dr. Scholl's.
How strong is Extra Strength Tums EX? Heartburn strikes, Tums strikes back. Heartburn's gone that fast. Tums EX, twice as strong, twice as fast as regular Rolaids.
An arrest today in the California wine country massacre. Ramon Salcito, a winery worker, was nabbed in Mexico near his mother's hometown. He is wanted in Sonoma County, California for the slaying last week of 7 people, including his wife and 2 daughters. A third daughter, whose throat was slashed, is recovering. Salcito, a Mexican citizen, is a legal resident of the United States, and U.S. officials expect that he will be extradited to face murder charges. China's student uprising drew even bigger crowds to Beijing's main square today. Communist leaders stayed behind a great wall of silence. They refused to meet with the protesters or to address their demands for more representative government. CBS News correspondent John Sheehan is on the scene.
Tens of thousands were in the streets tonight after the 3rd straight day of demonstrations in Beijing. Smaller rallies were reported in Shanghai. During the day-long protest in Tiananmen Square, student leaders called for the legalization of an opposition in China.
Perhaps they need democracy, I think.
This student said he had come to demonstrate against government corruption. Then, despite a warning broadcast on Beijing television, the crowds were on the move again, heading down the main thoroughfare to Zhongnan High, the Communist Party headquarters. Police and plainclothes security men pushed back demonstrators who tried to enter the high-walled compound. The pro-democracy rally turned anti-government, with the demonstrators calling the name of Prime Minister Li Peng and shouting, "Li Peng, come out, come out." This was the boldest challenge yet to communist authorities, and official patience seems to be wearing thin. Hundreds of police reinforcements were brought in to clear the streets. As the demonstrations continued into the early morning hours, the students vowed to go on with their campaign through next Saturday's government funeral for Hu Yaobang, the deposed Communist Party leader who died 5 days ago. He was fired in disgrace in 1987 for being too tolerant of student demands for democracy. John Sheehan, CBS News, Beijing.
Soviet troops were pulling out of the Republic of Georgia today, while in Moscow a fierce debate surfaced over the Kremlin's handling of last week's disorders. At least 19 people were killed when troops broke up a nationalist rally in the Georgian capital. CBS News reporter Jonathan Sanders in Moscow has the latest.
Some of the first Western pictures from Tbilisi, the capital of Soviet Georgia, show how the Georgian people reacted 10 days ago to an operation that resembled an invasion by the Soviet army. These pictures, shot by CBS News, were confiscated by Soviet authorities and only recently returned, with some sections blacked out. Deaths of innocent protesters enraged the people. The tanks and troops that patrolled the street for more than a week provoked as much as they pacified. Calm has now been restored. The troops ceded their place to local authorities. People in Georgia and throughout the Soviet Union are now asking why the tragedy happened. There's been a severe lack of information inside the Soviet Union. Only today, Moscow news reporters made public the fact that one protester had been shot and that at least one girl had been beaten to death by soldiers using shovels. Today, the Moscow News, a highly regarded publication aimed at the elite, published sharp criticism of the government's actions in Georgia. Some of the new breed of Soviet politicians warned against the heavy hand of Soviet censorship that kept the Soviet people from knowing the details of the violence in Soviet Georgia. The absence of openness, they said, is an extraordinary threat to Gorbachev's entire reform movement. They asked how much real openness there is when it's automatically shut down in a crisis. Jonathan Sanders, CBS News, Moscow.
The Attorney General of El Salvador was murdered today. A bomb tore through the roof of his armored car. Roberto Garcia Alvarado was 53. President-elect Alfredo Cristiani blamed Soviet and Cuban-supported rebels.
Originally, I was taking aspirin for my headaches. Aspirin would sometimes irritate my stomach, and I'd call the doctor, and he told me to try Tylenol. It wouldn't cause the stomach irritation that aspirin can. Tylenol really worked for me. It got rid of my headaches. I didn't have any problems after I took Tylenol.
Lana Carson trusts Tylenol. Its pain reliever is in a class by itself.
It's a wonderful pain reliever for me, and it works great.
On your path to success, reach for America's strongest financial helping hand, Citicorp and Citibank. More American families own their own homes and attend college with our help, and more get what they want with MasterCard and Visa cards from Citibank than from any other company. We also serve millions of customers in every major marketplace worldwide. Citicorp, because Americans want to succeed, not just survive.
Gas pain. Bloating. Gas-X has the strongest, fastest relief ingredient. Painful gas is like beer bubbles. Add the leading antacid. Add Gas-X. Only Gas-X gets rid of the gas. The strongest, fastest reliever for gas pain and bloating. Gas-X.
When my minor arthritis pain acts up, even little things are a big effort. But I don't take aspirin anymore. I take Advil. Advil gives me hours of relief from arthritis pain, and it's gentler to my stomach than aspirin. Advil, advanced medicine for pain.
Well, George Bush is nearing the end of his first 100 days as president. The mark comes next week, and we have a poll on what Americans may be thinking about their still new president. Leslie Stahl has it.
President Bush took King Hussein of Jordan boating today. Early this month, he took Mubarak of Egypt to a baseball game. Last week, he tried a foul shot and made it. Pictures like these, George Bush, the regular guy, are central to his personal popularity with the American people, who, according to the CBS News New York Times poll, give him an overall approval rating of 61%. An almost equal number think Mr. Bush has strong qualities of leadership. Most disagree with the criticism that the administration is adrift.
Well, when they see George Bush do something, when he gets a result, they sense that this is the kind of person they wish to live next door to them. And if they had a problem, he's the kind of next-door neighbor they would go to try and get that problem solved.
There's another, less flattering view.
He has yet to ask Americans to make any really tough decisions. And so it's pretty easy to be popular right now.
The public agrees that there's been more style than substance here. The president's favorable ratings drop when the question relates to specific issues. Only 45% approve of his handling of the economy. Most who identified problems they considered pressing say he's not working hard to solve them. With a style short on boldness, Mr. Bush has emphasized on issue after issue getting along, as on assault weapons,
I'd like to find some accommodation.
on aid to the Contras.
So what we've done is get together with the Congress.
And he takes tiny steps on tough issues, like the budget,
And this is a first manageable step.
relations with the Soviets.
Let's take our time now.
This has allowed him to be all things to all people, working both sides of the political spectrum. Conservatives see Mr. Bush as preserving the legacy of Ronald Reagan, despite his limited moves toward gun control and agreement not to seek military aid for the Contras.
I think the important thing in terms of Contra aid was, again, he's kept the Contras alive.
Even liberals find things to like.
He tends to be pragmatic. He does not tend to be an ideologue who holds radical right-wing positions until death do us part.
He's not Ronald Reagan.
He makes compromises, and yes, he's not Ronald Reagan.
I don't think there's any real base of Bushites. That's the risk you take whenever you make a compromise. You try to make everyone happy, and you can make them happy for a while, but then they're going to find cause for complaint. And that's going to happen sooner or later in the next 3.5 years.
But for now, people are judging Mr. Bush on style. As he did in the campaign, the president has remade his image. No longer the Yale preppy with a silver foot in his mouth, no longer the attack dog of the campaign. The new image, a guy who could live in your hometown. Leslie Stahl, CBS News, the White House.
Some encouraging words tonight about Lucille Ball. One day after emergency heart surgery, her doctor said today the 77-year-old actress and comedian now appears headed for a full recovery. After Lucille Ball awoke this morning, her husband reported, and I quote, "Her Irish eyes are smiling."
Pain that throbs, aches, pain that pulses. Remember, there is a wonder drug for pain like this. The wonder drug doctors themselves take more often for pain. The wonder drug doctors take more than extra strength Tylenol, more than Advil. More doctors take Bayer for pain. Bayer is the wonder drug that works wonders.
Excuse me, ever try this coffee? Oh, no. I use special gourmet beans. So do we. I roast them to perfection. So do we. I brew fresh, rich coffee. So do we, but then we freeze dry to lock in superior fresh brewed flavor and aroma until you release it. Perfect. Who are you? We're the only ones who do all this. We're Taster's Choice, the choice for taste.
You're on your way.
The company that gave me a summer job in Louisiana last year has sent me to Germany this year. And we've got an interesting challenge, getting a special product to people who need it all over the world. It's used in formulating medical compounds that fight heart disease, high blood pressure, and more. Hard to imagine a college senior working on a project like this. But I found one company willing to give a young person a chance.
Now lets you do great things.
There was a blessed event today at the San Diego Wild Animal Park. A condor chick checked out of its egg with an assist from some helping hands. It's only the second California condor hatched from an egg that was conceived in captivity, and one of only 29 of the species left anywhere in the world. The chick was given the Indian name Mandan. Its sex won't be known for a few weeks. Now, think of a vacation, and chances are you don't think first of Sparta, Tennessee. But hundreds of Americans do. they don't see it as a place to take a vacation. It's the place they claim they got taken. CBS News correspondent Connie Chung explains.
Dogwoods in bloom and the countryside green once again. This part of Tennessee looks like one of the most placid spots in the nation. But state and federal officials say this part of Tennessee is crawling with con men.
They're able to make a lot of money by ripping off people all over the country.
Since 1983, more than 24 companies, most specializing in cut-rate vacations, have set up shop in and around the small Tennessee town of Sparta, all headed by local businessmen. In the past 2 years, they've sent out 150 million postcards from the tiny post office here. The postcards suggest the recipients have won a prize, or a vacation, or both. In fact, authorities say there are no prizes and no free vacations.
Whatever they can do to mislead somebody, to misrepresent them, to get you to part with your money, it's going to happen.
Mr. Austin, you've been called a con man or rip-off artist.
I'll be honest with you, I'm damn mad about it. I don't feel like I've ever ripped anybody off, and I've certainly not conned anybody.
Bill Austin is vice president of Southeastern Travel Corporation, one of 5 Sparta companies the state of Tennessee has filed suit against, alleging fraudulent and deceitful advertising. Officials say they've received 500 written complaints against Southeastern alone in the last year. But Austin says he's merely a victim of bad publicity, that no one's been taken.
They are never in any way led to believe that it's anything besides a purchase. They're buying a product and they're paying a price for it. They know what the product is. They know how much they're paying for it.
It seems like what I'd been waiting for, you know. I had won this. It said as clearly as I just said it. I had won something, an award, a prize.
Carl Riley is a graduate student in New York City who received a postcard from Southeastern Travel. Like other recipients, when he called to claim what he thought was a prize, operators pressured him for his credit card number, or else, they said, the vacation offer would expire. The charge, not including airfare anywhere, $300.
I had to pay money, and without this payment, they weren't interested in me.
In Nashville today, hearings were held on legislation that would eliminate any misleading language on postcards. But here's the surprise. Some area politicians don't support it. They don't want to put the travel companies out of business, mainly because local residents would be out of jobs.
I think the people that answer these calls or send their credit card number in or give them their credit card number thinks they're getting a big vacation for practically nothing when, you know, that just don't happen.
Do you feel sorry for them?
Not really.
Federal experts say scam artists who are carpetbaggers often leave town and quickly set up shop elsewhere. The likelihood that the travel companies in Sparta will be run out of town or closed down is slim because all have local support.
Well, Connie, how does one guard against these scam operators?
Well, you just shouldn't give out your credit card over the phone unless you know what you're buying. In other words, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Thank you, Connie. And that's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather with Connie Chung. See you tomorrow. Good night.
I'm Kathleen Sullivan. Tomorrow, Audrey Hepburn with an eyewitness account on the relief efforts in the Sudan, plus Charlie Chaplin's films and Simply Red on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.
I'm Chris Clark, and coming up next on Eyewitness News, disaster on board a U.S. battleship in the Caribbean, at least 47 dead. We'll have a live report from Washington, plus reaction from some Middle Tennesseans with family members on